Yeah, no, I'm delighted that she's here because if I'm going to rip my fucking hair out of my head, the little bit that I
That's
have
not
left.
true. It's impossible.
Hold on, I'm going
It's
to try
wild
it.
out
You want to
there.
see me? Do you want to see me try to rip out the hair that dictates that it's your hormones and it's your gut health that's preventing you from losing fat?
Oh, all the gut health. Yeah. Let me tell you though, I mean, my hormones were fucked up for a long time.
Emily,
And I
you're a
was still
fucking
able to get down to
competitor.
8% body fat.
I think,
So,
and I agree with you, but here's the problem. And right off the bat, we're going to start this conversation like this. Most people are not doing what you did to degrade your hormones.
well, that's true.
Right? Most people didn't get down to fucking low 12% body fat as a woman.
She said
that's
8.
or 8%, which I think
Don't
is
give me an
I don't
extra
know how
4 there.
I don't know how that's fucking possible, by the way. You must have just
12% is gross. That's like
did you disappear? Where were you?
Oh gosh, it was insane.
Was there anything left? Was it just bone and well, you look like an Auschwitz case?
And your head, it's like your head gets bigger too. You see pictures, like I see pictures looking back, and I'm like, I was like a bobblehead, right?
Sure, like a Chernobyl baby. But like, you know what I mean? Like we like I was on some. I was like, this is what I'll do when I'm taking a shit after I post my stuff, and I'll start to scroll other people's accounts to see what I'm going to get upset about that day. And I cross over this one person who I do follow, who's
V-Shred.
No, I wish it was. Just kidding. He's an easy one. He's a very easy one.
I was going to say I didn't. I wouldn't take anything too.
This is a self-proclaimed menopause expert, and the advice that was being doled out was that it's your hormones and it's your sleep, and we have to be able to give you a bunch of carbs to be able to make you sleep better and feel better, and that's why you're not losing weight. And immediately, no context, just blah, 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 throw up advice to people that are like, oh shit, maybe I should eat more carbs. Meanwhile, Mrs. Jones is probably eating 250 grams of them every day and wondering why she's still 40% body fat and can't get rid of it.
Yeah.
So I want to really start to, I want to get the background on how you got into this space immediately, because I think we have to get people to believe who you are and what you're doing. I don't think that's going to be hard. And then we're going to start to dive into just the bullshit amount of stuff that we're seeing every single day and what you and I and everybody else here is fighting. So
Welcome back to the Other Side Lifestyle Podcast with Jim and Rob. Today we have Emily Murphy. You can find her on Instagram at Go Get 'Em Coach. Go ahead.
Thanks
you can
for
talk
having
now.
me.
That's it. The floor is yours, Emily.
Well, where do we start? So I've been doing this for 20 years in a gym setting for a long time. And I was the trainer that thought that, middle-aged women weren't working hard enough when I was 20 years old. And, everybody needed to eat like a bodybuilder and push people way beyond what I was pushing myself to be. And, you see some results and some things go really sideways. And so you learn, right? So that was 20 years ago. I also put myself through 5 years of national figure competition in bodybuilding and wrecked my hormones, going up and down 30 to 40 pounds between shows, 4 to 5 shows a year for 5 years, and was absolutely obsessed to a fault, right? So I spent 3 years after that, I say healing the metabolism, healing my body, and being okay with being overweight. And when I finally healed my relationship and my mindset around food, my weight started to come off. But it took 3 years of really learning what was going on in my brain, what my relationship with food, why there was no on and off switch, which I had created, but also the spillover to the mindset, right? I'd created it physiologically where my body was starving literally all the time. So when I was off or not prepping for a show, there was food opportunity and I was taking it, and that's normal. But I had to learn that was normal. And this was before a lot of the internet. This was before reverse dieting. I had to learn reverse dieting over 3 years on my own with no information. So school of hard knocks, right? That's what, that's where I'm coming from.
The best school.
Talk a little bit about when you said like how much the mind had to do with the recovery from this. What specifically do you mean?
Well, that all or nothing, right? That we try to talk to our potential clients and our clients about, that being, you have to separate what you physiologically feel. Is it really hunger? And where is that stopping point? And then we also have to be okay with it in our mind, am I eating this much because I'm going on another diet? I'm going to do this to myself again. This is my last hurrah. This is all I've got. Or am I going to be okay with just having a small amount? And I'm not in a feast or famine state. This isn't 1,000 years ago where we might not have food next week. No, I could go back to the restaurant I'm at next week and have that same meal or whatever it was and be okay. So I had to start telling myself that and making sure that I knew. I practiced just weird things like throwing food away, taking a bite of something, being done with it, and really sitting and struggling in my mind with that and all the feelings that come up around wasting food, not eating it, not cleaning your plate, these things where you just really start to listen to what is going on in my brain and my body.
Do you think there's less people in Africa starving because you threw the food out? Because I think
we have to eat it all. Africa, China, all the places.
Yeah, I think that's what I learned from my mom, was that there would be more people starving if I don't finish the food.
Yeah, our parents grew up, during a depression, and that's, that's what we were taught. Yeah. And we don't want to waste food, right? But we don't also need to let restaurants and other people tell us what our serving sizes are, right? There's no calibration. There's no understanding when you get served food now more times than you're serving yourself.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing too with the wasting of food. It's like, well, is this food really actually food? Like, you get to a party, do you need to have 5 bags of 1/5 filled potato chips? Like, don't waste food. Like, this is stuff that you probably don't want to be eating on a regular basis anyway if health is a priority. So is it really wasteful? It was wasteful being produced more than it's wasteful throwing it out.
Yeah, it's different emptying out the bag of Doritos or throwing out the cake that you're not going to eat versus like having a $65 filet mignon that you're not going to finish.
Right. Yeah. There is a difference there, but it's hard to throw away that, boxed cake that your kids made for you for your birthday too, right?
I throw it out right in front of them.
Yeah.
I said, this is what I think of your cake.
I think what you do is you shove their face into it until the bubbles start to become less and less prevalent and they start to really kind of shake backwards like that.
Once the shaking stops, that's what
you feel the panic. And then when you feel the body get limp, then you lift them out, then you throw the cake out. Then you put them in a corner in the room and you make them reflect on why they made the cake in the first place.
Because eating like that would create a similar anxiety emotionally.
Summer camp at Rob's. I'm sending my kids.
So back up for a second, because you started going and you said immediately a couple of things that I think will probably trigger some people. You said, I wrecked my hormones. I want to discuss what wrecked your hormones meant, how, and why.
Well, particularly my thyroid, but honestly, I did not test my hormones back then. There would be no chance I would find somebody to test them at, 27 years old. There's no way. So, especially at that time. I mean, now, yes, you could walk into a place like we have and pay to have your hormones tested at any age. We run labs of teenagers now, but so I know from what I felt when they bottomed out at 37 when I tested, right, where estrogen was low. I mean, non-existent. Testosterone is non-existent. Thyroid's in the tank. Progesterone not even coming up on the lab. And so I know from feeling that when I did get tested again, when they bottomed out, that's where I was at that point. I say wrecked. I mean, my body wasn't functioning right. All the symptoms of dysfunction were there.
Like describe those symptoms, because I think that's important.
First off, no libido, no sex drive, PMS and horrible menstrual cycles, erratic sleep. Sometimes I'd fall asleep and I could sleep for 15 hours. Sometimes I wouldn't sleep at all with insomnia all night. Very anxious, not able to calm my central nervous system, just always being on alert. Again, that leptin ghrelin imbalance, not having any idea if I was hungry, if I was full, but being able to eat mindlessly, to try to calm myself. So cortisol raging, all the things.
So anybody who wasn't paying attention, she was not describing a teenager. She was describing A 37-year-old adult woman.
Yeah.
Well,
going
that was at 27.
Oh,
Also,
27,
with, I mean, horrible skin problems. While I was competing, I was put on an antibiotic for 3 years for my skin. It wrecked my gut
What?
health. That was another
What?
big, yeah. I mean, it was just, here's a solution to your problem. And at that time, I didn't know. There
Oh
wasn't
my
all this
God.
gut health talk back
Just
then.
like straight back to back where you'd be on it, then off for a cycle, then back on?
No off. Just
What?
on.
Christ.
Yeah, just
Oh my God.
just on it every day. Pop the pill. Yeah, but
Oh
skin problems went
my
away.
God.
And then we pay the consequences for,
Yeah, then
Western
just get on the
medicine
pill.
style.
The pill will fix everything else. You'll be fine. The pill and antibiotics. There'll be no negative consequences.
Yeah.
Now,
So,
just
Wow.
paint with a little context to just describe what lifestyle looked like back then for you, from like a training standpoint, from an eating standpoint. Like where were your priorities in life at 27 years old when all this started to occur?
so when all of this came to an end, when I stopped competing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So basically,
Yeah.
it started
When that-
it started in your early 20s when you decided to compete,
Mhm.
and then it carried on into your late 20s. But then you
Right.
started.
So
Then the
5
after
years of
effects came.
competing, very strict, very regimented to a T. I mean, just and also, I mean, trading a, alcohol drug addiction for another addiction, right? And pouring into that. And so it was way too regimented. Come out of that for the next 3 years, though, trying to gain back balance and resting, trying not to do 2 hours of cardio a day. Like I would have to fight that. And that seems demented, right? It's mental.
Yeah.
But that was where I was at. I would have to program rest days. I would have to try to eat, like I said, push food away, take a few bites of a dessert, let it go, walk away, deal with the mindset stuff. So at that point, I was on the comeback of that all. It was more balanced, but I was also 30 pounds overweight for 3 years. And I had to be okay that I thought this was just going to be how it was until there was that mindset shift where I could start being just not obsessed with food.
And that mindset again was you were either in competition mode. You did not know how to be out of competition mode and in lifestyle mode. It was just like, I'm having all the things.
Right.
It was like, live every day like your last. This is the last time I might be able to eat at this restaurant.
Could be my last meal.
Yeah, it's my last meal. Live YOLO. Okay, nice.
Yeah. So, I mean, quickly recovering from that into training. We had a gym, we had a commercial kitchen, we did meal prep business. We had another business here. We're in Orlando in the theme parks, and 3 young kids. And life got crazy, running high stress, training, doing maybe 18,000 steps if I was at Disney working for the day, and bam, 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 overcommitted, over just everything, stress to the max. And it all led up to COVID at 37 years old, where I was in the best shape of my life. What I felt like we were cycling keto, paleo, just really low carb, fasting all the time. Quarantine happens. We rent out gym equipment and do Zoom workouts, doing Zoom workouts twice a day, sometimes 3 times a day, ripped. And then our kids are, not back in school in 2 weeks, and everything starts to like unravel, right? And my hormones,
At least you were in Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least we're in Florida. But even the first few months and the kids in and out of school, it was
rough.
a mess. We lost a couple businesses. It was bad. It was bad.
Yeah.
And so again, I find myself at the doctor trying to figure out what's wrong, and birth control, antidepressants, before I finally found somebody to run my hormones and look at everything. And then here I am looking like I'm in menopause at 37 years old. No hormones. I mean, they're just not even showing up. No estrogen, no testosterone. Testosterone was a 3. I was at 37 years old.
And what was the protocol from there? What did they do once they saw these numbers?
Well, I had options. The options were start with a couple things, start with supplementation possibly, but I had to get out of bed and I had to be able to make big pivotal changes at that time in 2020, transition my business online from the gym. And so I said, I need everything. I need everything right now. I don't have another option. Yeah. So that's where I started, because literally it was sink or swim for my businesses, for my relationship with my kids, for my relationship with my husband. everything was a mess because I could not function.
So supplementation, hormone replacement, all that stuff.
Testosterone, thyroid, which I had known my thyroid. So doctor did run my thyroid at 27. Low numbers. They said we could go on levothyroxine or Synthroid, but you're in shape. You don't need that.
Yep.
So that's what they told me. I could have gone. Now, me being a personal trainer, naturalist, I said, badge of honor. I want to be natural. I don't want to be on medications. I'd gotten off the antibiotic. I was like, no more medications. And so what I know now is struggled with my thyroid until 37 years old.
And then, so when you were talking about thyroid markers, and I think this is something that we have a lot of. So you have obviously the disorders that people have, like you have Graves' disease, you have Hashimoto. So those are like actual documented deficiencies or issues that people are born with or that occur in their lifetime.
Autoimmune, where
so autoimmune
immune system
conditions.
is attacking the gland.
Yeah. And then outside of that, right, if you don't actually have a documented diagnosable disorder or disease, which those are disease states, what are the lifestyle factors that influence thyroid problems that you see?
Mostly stress.
Okay.
Mostly chronic dieting, right? And keeping low calories like I did for so long. It can be hereditary though. Every woman in my family has thyroid issues and we're bad converters of T4 to T3.
Okay.
So none of them were in competition they probably have been on diets and stuff too, like a lot of us women, most of our lives, but probably not to the extreme that I did. But there's factors for sure. The biggest being stress.
Do weight swings and weight fluctuations contribute to thyroid issues?
They could for sure. Yeah.
The reason why
you're doing whatever you're doing to get down to a low weight is going to put stress on the body. Sure. And then there's stress on the body coming up. If, you overeating is just as bad as undereating. So, or the body being in a state where it decides to store your excess calories and not burn them off. There's a lot going on there. So
sure. Yeah. And the reason why I say that is because I think most of the time what happens is, at least practically that I see anecdotally, is that you have people that lose weight. And then when they lose weight, they're going to lose some fat, some water, some muscle. And then when they regain weight, it's usually not because they're just gaining a ton of muscle. They're usually going to regain fat. So
Not
now you're just gaining muscle
it's
constantly.
Every time.
Your anabolic switch never turns off.
Every time.
Yeah.
Every time.
Just plus muscle constantly.
Living in a constant state of guilt for this gift that I've been given.
Dude. By the way, if there was ever a situation where if a genie was ever like, hey, here's 3 wishes, my first immediate wish would be that all food, no matter what it was positively impacting your physiology. So whether it was a burger, a salad, fries, a steak, candy, whatever, that you just immediately got nothing but benefit from it.
Would you eat salads and veggies
ever again?
If like a donut provided the same feeling, gut health wise, the same energy, the same nutrients?
That's a really great question, because I think it comes down to flavor. I think I would get sick of the hyperpalatability at some point. Like, you have to, right? It's like a porn star must get sick of fucking constantly. So at some point, like, he's
something I'll never find out, but I do agree. Yeah.
Like when you're on vacation and you're like, I hit like 4 days where day 4, if I'm out and we're eating out all the time because we're on vacation, I'm like, I'm ready to go home.
But here's why. Here's why.
Because it makes you feel like shit.
You feel like shit.
Right.
You're tired.
So if we didn't have that.
Yeah. You go out and you get the deep fried chicken sandwich, which I don't even want.
And you feel great.
And
you just feel
down
great.
Down in Nashville, everyone's like, you got to get this. I'm like, I don't even want that. And you get done, and you're like, God, I just feel lighter. I feel like
I just feel great. All of a sudden, you're like, your veins
go for a jog.
Your veins are popping. You got energy. Your digestive health is great. Yeah, I don't know that I'd ever eat a salad ever again. Yeah. Unless it was swimming in blue cheese dressing with like a ton of fried chicken on it.
So you want blue cheese soup?
Yes, I want blue cheese soup. I love blue cheese so much.
Blue cheese broth, if you will.
Yeah. Like,
it's
I want
so
French.
Weird though. You get that, like, you bite into it and you're just kind of like, this still tastes bad. It tastes good, but it tastes like it's been out for a few days.
Blue cheese? Well, it is rotten cheese. I mean, I
can't get past that deal.
Yeah, because it's like, I like those foods. I like you because you feel good eating them. So it'd be interesting if you had the same nutritional value, if it would still feel some kind of refreshing way, having some nice asparagus or a salad or something like that.
Maybe that'd be like the palate cleanser in between trips to McDonald's. I'm going to chew on some celery sticks as I drive through the drive-through to just warm up.
I could do a sorbet, but I'll do a cucumber this time.
So back to the weight fluctuation thing. When people are always usually gaining weight by way of fat as opposed to muscle, does that put a strain on the thyroid because you're losing muscle mass? Is there a correlation?
Oh, I'm sure it'll put I'm sure it will tax the whole system. I mean, yeah. Whenever the body is out of homeostasis, right, whether it's going up or down, it's going to tax the system.
And then as far as fat accumulation or fat gain or the inability to lose fat, is that going to be driven more by sex hormones like progesterone, estrogen, testosterone? Is that more of a thyroid issue?
So it's hard to say, and it's probably individual too. I mean, It depends how much dysfunction has been there. I don't know. What do you think?
The way that it's been explained to me by other people who are in this field is that the thyroid is the thing that's directly responsible for metabolic health and metabolic function. And the sex hormones are secondary to that. So for example, if you had low estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, but for whatever reason, your thyroid was optimally functional, you would have no problem losing fat.
So
it's more on the mental side when the hormones are off.
Because of the labs I've seen, I mean, we have some really big people come in and get labs, and I've seen some good looking thyroid, like really good thyroid function. And we don't put them on thyroid medication, but we put them on progesterone, estrogen, testosterone, and we start to see things turn around. Now, we still have to be in a calorie deficit. We still have to be doing the things, right? That's not, we didn't give them the hormones and the weight started shedding off. Right. But that is why, because I've seen, I mean, we're surprisingly, it comes back, right? You see somebody that's 100 pounds overweight and we're talking free T3 of like 4.4, the top number on that range. And you go, are you sure? Should we rerun this? And they even still maybe have some symptoms, or they have no symptoms, but other things are out of balance. So it's hard to say.
It seems like more like the thyroid has more of, like what Aram was saying, like an actual metabolic downregulation potentially, where it's harder for these individuals to get into a deficit, where maybe the sex hormones are maybe affecting more the drive, the motivation to actually make better decisions. So maybe somebody gets those things figured out, and now they just have a little bit more zest for life, a little bit more energy to want to go to the gym, maybe able to make better decisions, not so emotionally driven, and participating in emotional eating type of a thing. I mean, we're just guessing. No, we're not.
Right. I would put thyroid above the sex hormones personally. Yes. Metabolically speaking. Yeah. But do I know if that's 100%? No, I don't. Yeah.
And we know it's not all metabolism. That's one small part, the mindset and the attitude towards these things, the attitude towards themselves and their ability to actually make change and things like that. Those are huge factors, if not the biggest factors out there. People get down in the dumps and they just stay there. And they don't think that they can actually make any positive change.
Well, and I also want to ask you too, because I think sometimes these chemicals are the things that are being blamed for the problem.
Like seed oils?
Correct. Seed oils, aspartame, that are slowly killing us by the day, by the hour. Your wine on a nightly basis is fine. Every once in a while, a dollop.
It's good for your heart.
A dollop of cocaine is fine. Just a dollop.
A
tiny
little. I'm picturing sour cream dollop, and I'm thinking that's a lot of cocaine.
That's a lot of cocaine. Well, if it's a Miami dollop, it's a very big dollop.
Miami. If it's a blue cheese broth dollop, then...
But I think sometimes the chemical itself is the thing that's being blamed. But I want to make a distinction between, if my cortisol is high, is it the cortisol itself that's creating a system or an environment inside the body that's disqualifying you from losing fat, or is that chemical being high then influencing other systems around, like your psychology, which will then influence your decision making, which will then influence how much or how little you eat as the reason for your problem? So dive into that a little bit.
Well, so again, I've tested plenty of people with really high cortisol that are 15% body fat. So how do we
Explain that, yeah.
Because they're using that cortisol to train their ass off.
They brew the magic, straw that
they do that with blood
doping. A lot
doping.
of people overtraining. I mean, if we tested figure competitors, trainers, their cortisol is always high. Just the regular woman that's just not overweight, her cortisol's high too. We see it all either really high or really low, which means it was really high for a long time and now it's bottomed out.
Yeah.
And some of the population is still able to maintain a healthy body fat percentage, which is part of, the reason I proclaimed I was healthy for so long, right? 5 years of competing and being able to drop weight. So hard to say. I mean, I wouldn't say it's stopping you. The behavior around that the cortisol is driving, like you said, Jimmy, is probably more to do with it. Like, what are you scrolling on your phone all day? Are you in a, there's fight, flight, or freeze? Are you in a freeze mode? Because you don't know if you should go to the gym or not, because you're on Instagram and you're seeing that could spike my cortisol higher. So I better not go work out, or, all the things that.
It's like, no, that's where you're supposed to be using cortisol. I mean, that was the first thing that's the first type of doping that Lance Armstrong did, was to increase his cortisol. I forget what kind of doping it was, but basically it drove his cortisol through the roof. That was the first type of doping he did. And then he got into like the EPO, where it was like
to overstimulate himself and to use that as the driver for action. Yeah. I mean,
it was like a low octane thing. And then they got into the EPO, where it was, you're producing more red blood cells. And he's like, that was high octane doping, everybody was doing it, kind of a thing. But so cortisol is not always bad. But when it's constant throughout the day, just from sitting around, then there's probably going to be some negative things. But again, it would go to the decisions.
Will it keep you from losing fat or maintaining a healthy body composition? I don't think so.
Yeah, it's going to go to those decisions that people make.
That's and the point that I'm trying to drive home for anybody that's listening is that, like, I don't ever want to invalidate or disqualify that these things are not a obstacle or that they're a potential problem. But if you were to be able, let's say you just had a fucking bulletproof mindset. Let's just say you were just somebody who was completely Teflon. Everything slips off of you. Nothing bothers you. And these chemicals are off. Your thyroid's fucking jacked up. Your sex hormones are in the basement. Your cortisol's through the roof. But you still ate well. You still tried to get some decent sleep. You still trained hard but recovered well. You still took all your steps. You still drank all your water. You're going to lose fat. Your body count will be fine. That's what I'm trying to, because I think right now there's this very large and prevalent narrative on Instagram or on social media in general. And what it's doing is it's specifically targeting women in general, because that's who ends up being fucked over by this information.
Well, no guy's getting on Instagram going, this guy's talking my cortisol is high.
Right. No, exactly. But
women are being targeted. You're being victimized right now.
I'm going to start doing that.
Yeah, you should manage your stress. It's not fucking brain science.
No, of course not. But I think it's also, too, it's disempowering to women to tell them that the reason why you're fat or the reason why you can't not lose fat is because of this little chemical right here. As opposed to, let's take a look at your lump sum decision-making ability. Let's see how reactive you are to every problem that you have in your life. Let's see what your relationship with food is. Let's take a look at your 25-year eating history and what you've done right and wrong, as opposed to saying, nope, this is the silver bullet. I have the solution for you. Here's $1,000 worth of lab work. Here's a ton of fucking supplements that I'm going to put you through my affiliate code on. And now you have to do it this way or you can't lose fat. That's my problem.
Yeah.
So, Emily, what do you do with people to address all the topics that he just came up with when you're working with somebody and you realize all these mindset issues and lifestyle and decision making?
Well, so let me go back and digress quickly though to the lower metabolic function that could be coming from the low hormones, right? And if cortisol is up, and getting those people into a calorie deficit, right? And how hard that can be, because I've dieted people hard, right? When that weight loss resistance, when that's pushing back and you're like, okay, well, let's take this to the next level. If they're okay, right? For short periods of time, monitored and supervised, but nothing budges, right? And they're compliant and adherent, and that can show us though how low the metabolic function is, right? And what, the GLP-1s show us is that people can starve weight off, right? That's what we know from all of that. It's not, you're not eating enough and that's why you're gaining weight, right?
Yeah,
We know that,
1943 proved that already.
right. So, I mean, I see a lot and hear a lot of that, and still people coming to me, the person told me I wasn't eating enough. No, your metabolic function is so low, right? You may have to eat only 500 calories a day to lose weight. We can't do that to you. We're not going to do that. We've got to bring up the function of the
Right.
body.
Right. We
So,
can, but it's going to be really uncomfortable and you won't be able to adhere to it for more than a week.
right. So I think that ties in though to that my cortisol is high, things aren't working, right? All that marketing and bullshit talk. So,
Yeah.
you asked me, I'm sorry.
What things do you work on with all those topics that Aram was bringing up, like the relationship with food, the mindset, the decisions, the habits, all that. But then now I also want to ask, which I'll try to remember, but what do you do with that person post 500 calorie diet or 800 calorie diet, however extreme it had to go? What's the strategy to get out of that? But
I never put somebody that low. No, I've never taken somebody.
I thought you were giving that as like some extreme example. You said that.
No, I've never taken somebody that low. I'm saying though that, I mean,
Gotcha. Yeah.
What we have seen from things like GLP-1 is that, right, you can starve off body weight. You don't have, there is no, I'm not eating enough and that's why my body is not losing. Gotcha. So what do we do? So I have a coaching program and then we have a medical side and clinic with nurse practitioners. So coaching, right, and that's where the mindset comes in around food and bringing up calories and first making sure that somebody has sufficient nutrients, and the mindset starts to, right, we've all added calories and food and macros to women's diets, and there's pushback a lot of times where you have to just have those conversations, and when they trust you and they understand what you're doing, it's okay. And that's why they need the coaching. They can't do that on their own. There's very few people that can eat healthy in an excess and be okay with putting on a few pounds at first without being led there. So we do that. We work on the mindset. We go week to week. We do Zoom check-ins and things and bring people through adjustments in a program, then bring them into lower calories and macros and cycling in and out. I mean, that's basic. I mean, I think that's normal coaching. I'm not reinventing the wheel.
No, I don't know if there's like conversations that you might have in regards to this, or what do you see people are struggling with the most and how do you address that? But
developing habits is the biggest. That's our biggest conversation. I think that if we can focus on habits enough, right, the mindset comes along with it. You still have to have the conversations. People are still in their heads, especially, and I work with women. We treat testosterone therapy and you know, in the clinic with men, but for coaching, it's just women, and they have to go. It's the all or nothing mindset that, you know, am I on the diet for the week, off for the weekend? One cheat meal turns into 4 days of vacation. This is summertime, so we're in the program preparing for what it's going to feel like when you've been choosing what you want to eat and you come back and you don't get to choose anymore because you decided on Sunday what you're eating for the week, and now we're going to try to execute that plan. How is the brain going to feel about that when you don't get to sit down in a restaurant on Monday and choose what you feel like eating? There's going to be a lot of shit that comes up. You're going to push back. It's not going to feel good. So we go through a lot of that talk, and a lot of it's seasonal. I love coaching people through the summer, and I love coaching people through the holidays. Those are
same.
That's where all the shit comes up.
if you can win those 2 seasons of life, you figured out nutrition.
Yeah.
There's nothing. I mean, that's it. Like, I think win the summer, win the holidays, and then win your worst day, and you'll never have a problem again. And I think that always comes down to, you at least, if you're just being proactive, Jimmy's
like, I teach this every day. I know.
Well, and by the way, I know that I haven't said this yet, but anybody who's listening that's my client, you're going to probably recognize Emily's voice. Emily is my preferred provider. So she's the one who I bring all of my tougher cases of women to, who, after we've exhausted the appropriate pathways of habit building and of everything else, and we're still seeing weight loss resistance, which means basically if I bury somebody's calories and they still don't lose fat, and I can be relatively assured that they're compliant, then I'll say, you have to go talk to Emily. At this point now, it is evidence to me that even despite doing everything right, because the problem is most people on social media or in passing will tell you that they're doing everything right. In reality, they're not. They're not flipping over every rock. They haven't accounted for everything. They're missing things. There's miscalculations, there's misperceptions, whatever. But I can rest assured that if I put somebody through 3 to 4 months of coaching with me, they have done everything right. And if they're still having trouble, then we have a chemistry set issue. This is Emily's territory. Go to her. So for everybody who's listening, this is the Emily that I refer you all to. And whether or not you use her, obviously, if you need her, she's there for you.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
Yeah, and the reason why I've created this partnership is because there's not very many people that are doing both the habit stuff in conjunction with the medical side of stuff. So it's easy to throw pharmacology at somebody. Yeah. It's hard to manage the pharmacology because you have to reevaluate the pharmacology and see if the levels need to change. Because especially as a woman enters peri or menopausal times in her life, those hormones are all in flux anyway. So if you're putting an exogenous chemical into the body, and then that system isn't completely flatlined and balanced, well, it's going to start to ebb and flow as you're putting this stuff in. So you have to constantly monitor and readjust. It's not like a set it and forget it with a guy.
It is absolutely not.
Right? So like with a man, you give him testosterone replacement at 30, you could basically keep a 200 milligram dose for the rest of his fucking life and he'll be fine. Yeah. With a woman, it's not like that. If she's 45, 50, whatever, and you're giving her HRT, there's this idea that like I could just get HRT and I could just back off and that's it. It'll be totally fine. No, it can't be like that because 3 months from now, when we pull your blood work again, it might look completely different. We have to re-titrate the doses. So talk about that because I think that's a very complex area that a lot of practitioners don't have well dialed in, and then their patients suffer because of it.
Yeah, and everybody's different. I feel like from what I've seen in myself and my patients, the amount of dysfunction and stress that you've had leading up to going on hormone replacement therapy really does matter. We see strides in feeling better, even body composition when you're doing the right things. But it can, for me, it was 2 years before I hit a mark of, I was like, I feel up at that 80% of the time, right? And we want to get you to that 80 to 100%. But people expect that right away, just like they expect weight loss right away and all the other things. If I'm taking these things, if I'm paying for this program, if I'm, taking the pills, going through the steps, stressed out people like to do a lot of stressed out stuff. Like they like to stress out more about the health stuff, right? If I'm doing all this, why can't I put a exact number on how I'm going to feel when I'm going to feel that way? It's the same as weight loss. We just don't know. In my journey, 3 months and I was back to, okay, I can work again. I can function again. I can think clearly. And then 6 months later, it was a little better. A year later, I was like, wow, I'm feeling okay again. I'm feeling good. And then 2 years into my hormone journey and healing my body and central nervous system and learning how to calm the fuck down. It was learning too. It wasn't just taking things. It was learning how to sit still, how to not do things, how to be okay canceling plans because you just don't have it in you. Not giving your last 10% to somebody that doesn't matter, right? Yeah, saving that for yourself and being okay. That was, 2 years where I went, wow, okay, I'm back. 24 months. And a lot of people would have quit by then, just like, any other weight loss story or anything else. But healing is a thing. And we say, just like if you broke your leg, Aram, you just had an injury. I don't know, how, are you 100% back? Right.
I'm 100% based on where I was when I started. Sure. Like,
okay. All right.
All function has returned. There's no diminished function whatsoever.
No loss in strength at all.
He didn't. Okay. Yeah. The strength was very minimal before.
Man, this was a bad example.
The bar. Yeah. Emily, the bar was pretty low. So it's not like we had to like. I wasn't playing in the NBA, and then now I can't go back to my career.
Right. He can still do 14 steps without having to take a break. So that's good. Up steps.
If you broke your arm, right? There would be there's a break. There's a physical break. We can't see our hormones. So you break your arm. You can see what's going on. The doctor has to set it, cast it. immobilize it for an amount of time. Then we've got to talk about how do we get the mobility and the strength back. Months and months later, possibly, before you're doing activity that you used to do. And then, I mean, some people, even from an injury like that, might never come back to 100%. And so if we can think about hormones and like, how do we rest them? How do we, not sit and do nothing, but immobilize your body for a little bit from all the stress, take some of it away. We can't get out of all our stress, which is the other part of the problem. And we'll talk about this a little. Functional medicine practitioners or functional trainers or coaches, right, that want to fix everything supernaturally. You don't need hormones. For the women that we see that absolutely can't get out of their stress, like I was, there was no 6-month gut protocol is bringing me back. And I didn't have 6 months. So, I mean, with hormones too, you got to decide like where you're at and what you need at the moment. Is this something that, is your livelihood? Is it something that, your relationships, everything that is riding on you? Or do you have time to sit back, relax, take some vacations, do nothing? You don't have a family to, have to answer to every day. It's very individualized.
Yeah, it's still so important. Like what you saying, I mean, this is after you taking hormones, working on things mentally, emotionally, whatever, for 2 years. Oh, so like, this is still, people can't ignore that. Yeah. Like you're going to get people who get on a GLP-1 or they get on hormones and then they never address those other things. And they're just still going to have issues. They might be feeling a lot better. They're getting a little bit back to their life, but they're still going to have all these ups and downs and emotional roller coasters. Like if Aram, he tears his Achilles like an idiot. He could, I mean, he's back feeling great, all that stuff. But how many people have an injury and then they're like, I'm afraid to live life again. I don't want to hurt myself. And then they limit their abilities just because of the way that they're thinking versus I can still do all the stuff that I used to be able to do. It's like, oh, get the surgery. And then they're a victim to their own mindset after that. So even if somebody's going, point being, over my random rants, even if somebody's going about the route, getting those hormones, which all of us are on hormones, there's still some work that you have to do with your relationship with food, with learning how to relax and de-stress and just like enjoy life a little bit, but you'll see these people do these 6-month protocols and then they lose all this weight. Their gut health's great. They don't fix any lifestyle stuff. And then they go right back to gaining all the weight back and having gut health issues. It didn't fix the problem. It healed it temporarily, but then you went right back to the lifestyle that caused the problem in the first place.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's because
there are no shortcuts. We know that.
No.
Yeah. You may get quickly to a result, but if you don't do the work that catches you up to keeping you there, you're not going to stay there.
Yeah. So as a business, I mean, you were talking about time management a little while ago, and I want to dive into that because I think, I don't have a ton of credibility since I'm not a busy mom who runs multiple businesses.
Listen, Ron, we all have the same 24 hours in a day. So don't try to justify these women with all their kids and jobs and their lack of discipline. Okay.
Hey, listen, I had to clean fucking shit off my dog's paw this morning, and she was.
Oh no! A whole paw? One whole paw?
Yeah, the whole paw. There's shit.
Oh
everywhere.
My god! It wasn't just on half the paw. How did you find time to make it to this podcast?
I don't know. I almost threw the entire day away. I was gonna throw I already had the Ben and Jerry's queued up. I had Bridget Jones' Diary on the TV, and then something inside me said I should show up for myself today, and I did, and that's why I'm here. So I'm a survivor.
You are.
I mean, you had a lot of motivation with this anger behind the Instagram post to get here and talk about it.
That's all it takes. But like for you, right? Busy mom.
I'm still triggered by the Bridget Jones's comment. But anyway, go ahead.
And is that because you're not a Renee Zellweger fan?
Zellweger.
So, by the way, she is the weirdest looking person on the planet. I can't find her. I don't know if she's attractive or she's not attractive.
Let's talk about Meg Ryan while we're at it.
Okay, sure.
The female Joker of real life. What has happened? Anyway, go ahead. Your question.
So, a lot of times you'll get met with resistance about like, well, I don't have time. Okay, so let's dive into what you don't have time to do. Like, what is being asked of you, and then what are you saying that you don't have time for? So if it's something like preparing protein ahead of time or blocking out 30 minutes 3 times a week to go to the gym, like you're somebody who has every excuse and every obstacle presented to you almost on a daily basis. how are you able to navigate your schedule to be able to strategically fit in the things that you know are important to you?
Well, eating is always on top. I mean, getting to the grocery store, and maybe it's not getting, maybe it's delivered groceries because you don't have
Instacart,
time.
baby.
So you find a solution. What?
Yeah. Instacart. That's all. I don't leave the fucking house anymore.
Emily, I
there
just
is
wanted
no
to tell you,
excuse.
me and Ram spent a weekend in Austin for a conference. I do not have
I was
any.
there for a conference.
Not with the women, all the women.
No, it was Hack Your Health.
Okay, maybe that was Dallas.
Oh, were you there for? Was that Gabrielle Lyons thing?
No, not Gabrielle Lyons.
Okay.
No.
0 for 2 from us with the guesses. So we were there. I don't have any food delivery services. I didn't even know what the stuff. He was like, I need a fan to sleep. It's too quiet in here. He Instacarts a fan
Bougie
to the
like
place.
that.
I'm like, I didn't even know that this. I'm learning. He teaches me so much.
Like, women, are you listening to this shit? This is what men do for themselves. Go fucking do something for yourself. Don't feel guilty.
The best thing about traveling with the Ram is that he Instacarts food and all this stuff to the house. I'm like, this is great. We got high protein yogurts. He made me eggs. And then he didn't have a sound machine with him, so he Instacarted a fan. Just a fan gets dropped off. I'm like, this is awesome. I still don't have any of those things, but
I mean, the time we live in, we're so busy, but there are options. But women will go, I don't want to spend the extra money. Oh, maybe I'm eating different than my kids. Take your kids to fucking Chick-fil-A and eat your own food if you feel like whatever.
Right.
That'll be our promo video. Take your kids to fucking Chick-fil-A.
But they'll think I need to eat with my kids or some bullshit excuse of why they didn't do the thing. Right.
And it's also why can't you eat the same things as your kids as well, especially if they're at a certain age.
Vice versa. Why aren't your kids eating the way you're eating?
Exactly.
At a certain age, that's the
sometimes you just got to blow past all that and go get selfish, get fucking selfish. If you want this, right? Yeah, we can talk about your kids' eating behavior and things all day, but like, I'm not coaching your kids, I'm coaching you. So,
and most kids,
whatever you got to do.
Yeah, most of the food that the kids eat, I got a kid. You're throwing chicken nuggets in the microwave. It's not like I can't make 2 gourmet meals because my 8-year-old requires, they just like more of the kale-based salad where I'm a romaine blue cheese soup salad. It's like you're popping stuff in the microwave. You're throwing it in an air fryer. It's not it's not this gourmet meal that you're making for the kid. If they're that, a picky kid's not picky for high energy food making.
Yeah, why is my beef Wellington done super well done?
Yeah.
Like,
Mom, I told you.
Back to the mindset piece. I mean, this is another thing that we do a lot inside my program is talk and coach about this shift of the energy in the house. It's going to shift when a woman starts to take priority on her health. There's pushback. There's pushback from the spouse. There's pushback from the kids. There's like what the hell happened? Like, my laundry wasn't getting done and my, ass wasn't being wiped and,
Yeah, because you're 15. Because you're 15, son.
Have to be okay with
Wipe
that.
your own ass.
They have trained everybody to be enablers. And
that's
there's I think research to show like when the mother is prioritizing this stuff, it's a much higher rate of the kid becoming that type of an individual versus maybe just the father. When the woman is eating well, the mother is eating well, and the mother is exercising, the child has a much higher rate of doing those things and having a lifestyle like that.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
of course.
My kid came to the conference with me. You guys met her.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
her daughter was there. Her
How old are your
daughter's
kids?
finished. She wants to be a trainer. Like, she's 100%.
4th grade? All in?
She was 19.
Yeah, it's just.
Yeah, she's 19.
Shouldn't have given her those drink tickets.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I remember.
Oh boy. Well, Real Coach's Summit is closed for the duration now. Thank you. No, but I think
banned. That's why it's at a different location, Virgin Banned.
Yeah, your kids will do what you do. That's what we know. Yeah. And
yes,
so yeah, taking that energy is a big.
Is that the conversation that you have though? Like, is that what you're like when you get? Because I'm sure you get pushback on that too. Like, well, Emily, you don't get it. Like, no, I fucking do get it. I am a mom, and I did have to switch things around in my house. So when you get that type of pushback,
And there was a lot of balance too. There was a lot of balance with, I mean, my husband's very in shape. He goes to the gym too. We went to the gym when our kids were young. We always, it's been part of what we do. And eating healthy is another part. And having the kids eat healthy too, what we can control. Now they're older, that gets harder, but if we can have it in the house, at least that's more of the time they get it. There was pushback though with the hormones when there was not a great understanding of how low I was, right? And how much I mean, there was pain in my body every day. It was like, I describe it like a fibromyalgia. I couldn't think, like my husband would be talking to me and I'm just zoned out, couldn't remember something. So there was a lot of friction there, and I couldn't go to all the sports games anymore. I couldn't do all the birthday parties, all the things, keep the schedule that we kept. And it was a long time before I feel like he understood what I needed, and that me saying no wasn't anything personal. It was what I had to do. And it was literally just not doing anything.
If you're really frustrated with him and don't want to listen to him these days, are you like, you know what? I do have to get my hormones checked again. It's just that, and you blame that. I need to get a prescription refill. I'm sorry, I stopped listening to you. It must be my levels are dropping.
My progesterone is down again. You're
It's been 7 days. Yeah, it's been 7 days since I had a shot. I gotta re-up.
So I do understand, though. I mean, nobody can tell me I don't understand. Like there's not, everybody in my house was not like, how can I help you feel your best, Mom? No.
They don't, and the reality is you're not going to get that support unless you actually verbalize it. And there's so many women, I think, that pull it all on their shoulders and they're like, well, fuck it. It's not worth the conversation. They're never going to get it anyway. So I'm just going to be super mom and do everything myself to the point where I run myself into the ground, and then everybody else is going to get blamed for it because it's their fault. Where I think that conversation breaks down is the fact that you never gave people the opportunity to help you in the first place. You never asked for help when you should have asked for help. You purposely decided to put it all on your shoulders. You decided to then resent everybody else in the household for it because you made the decision to do it yourself. And you never had that open discourse. Who knows? Maybe if you did talk to your husband.
You know women so well, Aram.
Well, and I've had this. I think of a man, and I take away, what was it?
Reason and accountability.
Reason and accountability. Logic and accountability. I take or reason and account. One or the other.
I identify as a woman, Emily. So,
but the reality, because I had this discussion in a Facebook group, the same thing. It's like you have to speak up because the woman does have this innate thing.
For what you want,
and ask, your words. And then we get a response. Well, the husband should know and step up. And I go like this. I go, sure, yeah. Let's just say they should. Okay. And if they're currently not, if you need to say something. So regardless of if they should or not, you end up having to say something. You need to speak up and say, I need to be at the gym or whatever it is. How can you help me? I mean, imagine if somebody actually had a super vulnerable conversation with their family and instead of like, I think the typical thing is we're going to start eating healthier.
Right. Yeah.
And then there's this resistance versus, listen, this is super important to me. For me, and then for all of you, that we do start changing some of our habits in the house. And I want to learn how to cook and make things taste great for you guys and for me. And if you guys find recipes, and it becomes this kind of team effort thing where like they can see where your heart is in it and how you want it to be.
Accountability that creates.
Oh my God.
I mean, that they might fire you because you don't need a coach anymore. You really shouldn't. I mean,
that conversation could be life-changing for the whole family.
Yeah.
To say it like that, to be super vulnerable and say, I need you guys. I want you guys to be part of this. This is for all of us. Let's do this together and make things taste great, blah, blah, blah. It'd just be so different than I think the way that typically.
And for women, I mean, usually, women come to us and they're no libido, no sex drive. Maybe, we say
that's because their husband's an asshole.
Maybe they're an asshole. Maybe it's your testosterone, or maybe you feel like shit about yourself.
Yeah. Right.
It could be a combination of all those three things. But a lot of times, I mean, and we've seen the libido come back without testosterone just because a woman feels good about herself.
Oh,
right. So when, there's no more sex in the marriage because you feel like shit all the time, right? You should be able to have that conversation with your husband. He's probably open for it, right? Why the fuck isn't this happening anymore? Well,
and it's like, but I think the average woman in that situation is probably like, well, because they're not making me feel sexy. And it's like, well, because you're not feeling good at all. It's like, it's both parties that are participating in it, and they're both blaming the other person.
Yeah.
Versus like, I feel like crap about myself, so I'm not vulnerable at all. And it's like, well, that's not sexy or romantic for the guy. I'm gonna try to force you to feel like when you're acting this way. It's a tough cycle. Those conversations.
Can you imagine a household full of big dick and big clit energy just constantly running around?
That was just hard for me to listen to.
Just so much bigness everywhere. Everybody's just feeling their best.
And then the 13-year-old son's like, "What is happening right now?"
Yeah, my parents are going to create more people, and I don't want more people in the house.
Be careful.
It's all right, son. Mom is only using the back door now, so there will not be any more kids being created, and that's how we resolve those types of issues. Listen, you come for the fitness and the nutrition, you stay for the life advice. That's why the Other Side Lifestyle podcast is the number one listened to podcast in all of the world.
By the people who listen to this, yes.
Yeah, obviously. So
right now.
Before I like to give a lot of value here at the end. So I want you to kind of very briefly describe what the sex hormones are responsible for women, as far as like, what is progesterone doing for them? What is estrogen doing for them? What is testosterone doing for them? And if you could just kind of quickly breeze over the thyroid ones as well, and then we'll let you go.
So, well, if we start with thyroid, and we say, just like we talked about, it's going to be the hub of your metabolism. It's going to be, your nutrient absorption, your energy for the day. T3, your active thyroid hormone, touches every cell in your body. When that is low and your body's not able to produce the T4 or convert the T4 to T3, you're going to feel low. You're going to feel less motivated. That can affect your sex drive. That can affect your body composition. Even things, hair, skin, nails, how you detox, right? If you can go to the bathroom or not, this is going to be thyroid's a big player there. So a lot to do with the metabolism, just like we talked about. The testosterone, for women, it is not just sex drive. I don't know if you know this, but autoimmune conditions are so much more rampant in women than men because we have less testosterone. Testosterone protects men from autoimmune conditions. So we have lower immune function when our testosterone is low. It protects us from cancer. They've proven that. Hair, skin, nails, again, muscle, body composition, when even bone, right? Estrogen and testosterone are going to be very important for, fighting things like osteopenia, osteoporosis as we get older. And then estrogen is, our female go get 'em hormone. When it's gone, there are so many things, and it sucks that there is such a big hole in women's health for estrogen. And that's why when I, again, seeing functional medicine practitioners or anybody say that you don't need hormones, we can bring these things back naturally, that's not happening in perimenopause and menopause. At 37, I didn't need to go on estrogen. I needed to repair my body, and my estrogen came back. But once you stop cycling, you're done. And the estrogen is absolutely needed. Brain protective, heart protective, neuroprotective, everything that we just, our general well-being is going to be that estrogen. And then progesterone, cool, calm, collected hormone, saves lives in my house, I promise you.
Also responsible for sleep as well, right?
Yes. And that's why women can't sleep as they get older. Cortisol can spike at night, and we can't get that deep, restful sleep. We can't keep our cool. We feel more anxious, on high alert, can't compartmentalize and think about things. Just all together, everything, synergistically helping in little amounts that are going to make up, a just harmonic flow.
Yeah.
We can't overdo it with just one hormone, right? We can't dose you up on a bunch of thyroid and say that progesterone and testosterone is going to come back, or that you don't need those anymore. So
yeah, if those glands of the body are no longer functioning the way they used to, or they're degraded for whatever reason, you can't expect things to appear out of thin air. And I think that's the problem, is that you can certainly, like you said, in your 20s, 30s, if you still have that function, maybe, But at some point, like once that system is offline, it's offline. And unless you're putting that in exogenously, it's not going to come back.
Right. But telling somebody your adrenals that have been shot for 20 years are going to come bring things back. Yeah.
No.
Just do a reverse diet and everything will come back.
Or take these 18 supplements and we're going to get your progesterone, estrogen, testosterone back. Like, just take the freaking hormones.
Yeah.
Yep. And then, well, I've also seen a relationship between histamines and estrogen, which I thought was interesting. A lot of people who have environmental allergies or allergies in general, like you were talking about testosterone and estrogen, there was some talk. I forgot who was
low estrogen. I mean, will make you more susceptible to histamine reaction.
Yeah, that's what it was. So I had actually sent an article over to a client of mine who suffers from really bad seasonal allergies, and I said, "Hey, listen, might just be an area of interest for you. Go check this out. Maybe if you go get some blood work done, and they show you that there's an issue, maybe you kill two birds with one stone."
Right. And you look at, I mean, when you're talking women that have been on birth control a long time too, how that's when, I mean, estrogen is way down, right? It looks like they're in menopause. They're crushing their estrogen. So then let's live how many years of our lives without the benefits of estrogen? Like, yeah.
I have a quick question before our final question, which is always the most dynamic question on the show. How has life been for you since learning how to relax? Like what things do you do maybe as part of, or maybe not every single day, but as part of your week that you've kind of found this balance, because you said before, like it's all synergistic. Everything works together. I'm a big believer in all of it, that, you can't have the good without the bad. We have to ride out these waves of this and that. Now that you've kind of found that balance and learned how to relax, what are some practices either you have, or what's life kind of like for you now?
I started golfing in 2020. That was part of my healing journey.
Fun.
I love it. Even when I'm not great at it, I still love it.
Awesome.
And there was not a time before that where I would ever have been able to be out 4 hours just doing nothing, relaxed, not thinking about 50 million things. And so that's a big thing. I try to golf a couple times a week, and it's a competitive too. So it's been something I can like low key, right, compete against myself with, but just the enjoyment of being able to be still and be quiet and be in my own thoughts, not always feeling like something is missing, right? Or I'm not doing enough. The guilt, it's all gone. And when I start to, I have triggers where I'll start to feel like, did I not get enough done? And I go back to the mindset work, because my brain and my body sometimes can disconnect, and we need to be recalibrated and reset, because it will quickly swing out of balance. Yeah.
I love that. That's like just those old voices and those old habits that'll start to come up. That's those triggers, but that's awesome. I mean, just even talking about the golfing, was that something new for you, or did you used to golf back in the day?
No, I never golfed because it was too slow and boring.
Awesome.
So
it's
all
like
of these things that I used to think were too slow and boring, right? I can do now.
But think about that. It's like introducing something new into your life, learning a new skill, finding fun in that, bringing fun back into your life again. I mean, these are things that are a huge, as far as I'm concerned, in my beliefs, a huge part of longevity, a huge part of like just being happy with life. And like you said, being able to learn to sit and be still. I did my first breath work class last night online. Oh. I went on Eventbrite looking for like a live breath work place. And there's nothing really around except I'm near Philly. There's like one place in Philly, and I found all these free breathwork events.
That's cool.
So this woman's in California, led the breathwork event last night. I'm laying on the floor out here. She leads it. That we scream into a pillow at one point. For anybody who's even just wants to try it, because that's something that I want to really dive into. But it was like 3-4 years ago.
Awesome.
Yeah, 3 years ago, if I were to do that, I'd be like, I got better things to do. Yeah. I did a float tank probably 5-ish years ago, an hour in a float tank. And I'm like, I got other things I could be doing right now. This is absurd.
I went crazy in a float tank. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, now.
The beginning of my healing journey. I've never tried it again.
And after the breathwork thing last night, I'm like, I want to do a float tank again, just to see if I can get into that relaxed mental state, because it's huge to be able to do that. So That's why I asked. I think that's awesome. Learning something new, not being afraid to learn something new, finding fun again in your life, learning
And
how to
being
sit
okay at
still.
being bad at things, right?
Correct.
And
Yeah. It's automatic.
I'm good
People
at
say
being
they're
bad at golf.
Yeah, well, people say like they're bored with their life or they feel stressed out and then they're not willing to learn something new because they're not going to be good at it. It's like you're automatically not going to be good at it
Yeah.
if it's something new, but that's the fun and exciting part about it. And if that was the same attitude people took about tracking macros or going into the gym, like they know I'm going to suck at this, but this is cool to learn. If it's just that attitude was a little bit different, it'd be great. So,
And I know,
thank
Aram,
you.
you say this too, when, people talk about using the gym or workouts as their stress management, that we can't. And my coach, because I hired a coach during this time too, said, absolutely not. You don't get to use workouts. Go find something else. That's what you've been obsessive about your whole life. Like you don't get to go do more to be less stressed.
Yeah.
Orthorexia is not the answer.
Yeah. Because there's obviously those positive effects on the brain by going and training.
Well, yeah,
It
you still need to do
doesn't-
that for your body.
Correct.
That is not your excuse that you don't have
Correct.
to manage the rest
Yeah.
of the stress. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a freeing thing when you can sit still. That's definitely something I've learned over the last couple of years. It's so freeing to be able to sit. I'm literally in my car, like listening to meditation music lately. I'm just like driving around. I'm into it. It's just like,
Everything's zen.
yeah, like you're driving and you're just like smiling or something. You're just like so relaxed. But then like we're filling ourselves up with with whatever it is, with TV, life, gym, driving fast, all this stuff. And we wonder why we're stressed out. So yeah. That's awesome.
I just unwind differently. I listen to Sepultura while watching reruns of the Holocaust, and that kind of gets me going.
Sepultura?
Yeah, you ever heard of Sepultura?
No, I
Or
figured you
like
would say
heavy
Tool.
hardcore metal.
Yeah, they make Metallica sound tame.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Metallica's tame.
Metallica is actually tame. People think that, like, Metallica is like heavy metal. I'm like, it's melodic rock to me. It's just it's like a step above Journey.
That's his meditation music.
Yeah. He's like, let's listen to Nothing Else Matters. I need to calm down.
That's a really calming song.
It is a really calming song.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or the
that's why I picked it.
Or the beginning of One.
Yeah,
What's
that's
the sleep one where the kid's gonna die in his sleep? Enter
That's
Sandman.
a little harder.
Sandman.
Enter Sandman's a bit harder.
That'd be a good meditation song for you. Enter Sandman.
Yeah, but I'm different because I'm an extrovert, so I recharge extroverted.
I am too.
Like I recharge by being around other people and stuff. Guys.
Well, that stuff, it gives me energy doing those things. No doubt about it. But there's something about finding that peace in the stillness. I think, like when I'm around people, if I'm doing a seminar, I get fired up and all that stuff. But it is nice to be able to decompress. The people that can't decompress, they're constantly seeking more things to pep them up. And that's what then ends up draining them, over time. But Emily, have you ever listened to an entire episode of Other Side Lifestyle podcast?
Yeah, I have.
I knew she did for some reason.
God damn it.
Do you know what the final question is?
No, so the ones I've heard, it cuts off.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah. So
maybe.
I've heard you say it's the final question, and then it goes into another episode.
Okay.
That's interesting. All right. Well, then, for whatever reason, maybe after this, you'll figure out why that might be. We'll ask you something different. We'll ask you something different so that your episode does not get cut off. Are you ready?
Oh, okay.
We always have our backup.
You do that on purpose.
No. Bye.